Everyone thinks because you're a zombie. Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Ladies and gentlemen, the motion picture you're about to see contains scenes so terrifying, the public must be given grave warning.
Hello and good evening, and welcome to the Bloody Binge Movie Podcast. I am your host, Sewer Dweller. I know we're a little late today. This was a movie. um, we'll get into that here in a little bit. I hope everybody's had a great week. I hope everybody had a good holiday yesterday. Everybody still has all their fingers attached. Hope everybody wasn't up late while the neighbors blew up the neighborhood. We'll see. We'll talk about some stuff later, but right now, as always on the Bloody Binge Movie Podcast, we're going to go ahead and start with the week's haunt industry and horror movie news. Now, there isn't, that's another reason, another big reason we're late. There is not much news. There just isn't. Let me check one of my sources, make sure nothing's dropped recently, but I don't think it has, and it has not. Nothing. It's a holiday week, so I would assume basically nothing's going on much, especially haunt wise. The haunt world, with all the theme parks announcing their stuff last week and everything, it's gonna get slim pickings for now until the theme parks start announcing more stuff and more haunted houses start announcing stuff and that. Um, but we do have a few stories this week to go over. We have a few more horror movie news, and then if time constraints, we'll talk about a convention that's going on this weekend in Indianapolis, Days of the Dead. We'll talk about them for a little bit, but right now let's get into our our haunt industry news. Our first story, Scare House, a renowned haunted attraction in Pittsburgh, will not open in 2024 after moving out of the Pittsburgh Mills Mall in late 2023. Financial challenges and the deteriorating condition of the mall, which narrowly avoided a sheriff's sale, influenced the decision. Namdar Realty Group, the mall's owner, has been uncommunicative about its plans, and the mall remains 75% vacant with deteriorating conditions. I think we all know that that's most malls anymore. Most malls out there, uh, they're not getting the business. You know, right now people can't afford really to pay mall prices for a lot of things, but it's also there's no appeal. There's no appeal to the mall anymore when I can go online and buy anything I want, you know, from any company that I want, any store that I want, without leaving the comfort of my house. So we'll see how that keeps going on. But Scarehouse moved to the Pittsburgh Mills Mall in 2020 with hopes of expanding, but had to significantly reduce capacity due to the pandemic. While being in a mall lacked some of the vibe, it offered tons of parking and seemingly the ability to significantly expand the scope of everything we were doing. Unfortunately, we had already committed and started moving when COVID-19 hit, which started a whole series of unfortunate events with the property, stated Scott Simmons, the owner of Scare House. While the haunted attraction opened normally after the pandemic, the waning traffic at the mall had been challenging. The last several years have been incredibly challenging, but I remain in awe of the support and enthusiasm of our cast, our crew, fans, and the potential partners who have already reached out to us to discuss concepts for future productions and attractions. This is a chance for us to reorganize and rethink what's possible for our strong Scarehouse brand, added Simmons. So yeah, it's always sad when when a haunt doesn't open, when it has to close. We lost here in Ohio this year in Columbus. We lost Carnage. Carnage had to close its doors. Look at the video. If you guys get a chance to look at the video for Carnage, look at videos for Carnage. It was awesome. It was amazing. We got to go through last year. We did an industry night with them, where they invited the haunt that I work at to come up and visit Carnage after season. And we went through twice. Me and the wife, and then a couple of other partner actors, I guess co-actors with us in the haunt. We all went through twice and fucking loved it. It was awesome. But yeah, it's always sad when a haunt has to close. Like Scarehouse isn't closing for good. They're just basically they got to find a new location. Um, Mall to me also mall haunted houses and malls, haunts and malls in general don't really work unless they're on the outside. Like their entrance space is the outside, so people know that they're there. Plus, malls close early and all that good stuff. But yeah, hopefully Scarehouse can find somewhere else. Pittsburgh is a big market, so hopefully they can find somewhere. But moving on, another haunt that's actually coming back to us this year, the Queen Mary in I think it's Los Angeles. I think I know it's in California. Dark Harbor. Queen Mary's Dark Harbor is coming back to us this year. This is the first time I think we went over this on one of the first episodes actually. I want to say it's almost like been 10 years almost since Queen Mary's done a haunt. But their Dark Harbor announced their first maze, and it is called Lullaby. This fan favorite maze, featuring the ghost of Scary Mary, has been redesigned for a new experience. Guests will explore the depths of Queen Mary's first class swimming pool, where Mary met her demise, and face her ghost on a chilling journey. Dark Harbor will run on select nights from September 20th to November 2nd, 2024. I had to do a little bit of digging, and but I found the original story for Lullaby, um, and it reads as this: it has been long rumored that Mary, the little girl who drowned in the Queen Mary first class swimming pool in 1952, has haunted the dark corners of the luxury liner since her ultimate untimely demise. Many experts theorize the haunting derives from Mary's spirit attaching itself to the little girl's stuffed toy bear. Perhaps the bear holds the gloomy secrets behind the wicked ghost of Scary Mary and why she still sings her eternal lullaby. That's very creative. It's something, yeah, definitely something to go check out if you're in the California area. Um, California has, especially Los Angeles area, has a lot of great haunted houses, and you would expect that, with all the aspiring actors, the aspiring filmmakers out there, um, the budgets and everything, which that's what it all comes down to, really, is a budget. And I think it'll be great. Queen Mary, I've seen some videos from the old Queen Mary and the Dark Harbor, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty good. We have one here in Cincinnati. We have the USS Nightmare, which is a riverboat that you can walk through and does a haunt, and seems pretty cool. But yeah, so moving on, and I believe this is our last haunt industry story because again, there's really no news this week. Haunted Hydro in Fremont, Ohio, is hosting a ghost hunt on their property. Excuse me, hold on one sec. Sorry, I had to cough there. The haunted hydro is basically the world's only haunted house that is housed inside a former hydroelectric power plant. 4 acres of terror, with indoor, outdoor, and a midway to keep you entertained all night long. The intimidating hydro walls stand 44 feet high, and the sound of the rushing Sandusky River will have you shaking in your shoes. So the haunted hydro's up near Akron. It is, and like I said, the only haunt um, out there to be inside of a former hydroelectric power plant. Their Facebook post reads, "Have you ever wanted to experience a real paranormal investigation? Now is your chance. Tag along with the expert from Orbs." I'm going to assume that is a paranormal investigation team or ghost hunting group up there in Akron, as they guide you through a thrilling night of ghost hunting. This unique event offers an opportunity to use professional ghost hunting techniques and to possibly encounter the supernatural. It will be on September 3rd at 8 p.m. The cost is $30 per person. There is limited space, so only 30 tickets will be available, and these events typically sell out. If go to hauntedhydro.fearticket.com to get your tickets. What to bring with you: cameras and any equipment you may have, bottled water, non-alcoholic beverages, and snacks if desired. Orbs will also have their equipment set up. So tickets are on sale now. All ages welcome. Serious interest only. No alcohol, please. So yeah, if you're in the Akron area and you're interested in doing a if you're interested in doing a ghost hunt, this is a good way to do it. Especially with a paranormal group that can teach you how they do it and everything like that. I do my every group does it their own way. They do their own thing. They have their own equipment and evidence and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely. If you're in the Akron area, check that out. It sounds like a great time. But yeah, that is all the haunt industry news we have this week. There really is nothing else that I haven't already gone over last week. So yeah, that's gonna do it for haunt industry news. We're gonna move on to horror movie news. A lot of the horror movie news this week, it's a lot of trailers. I'm not gonna do the trailers right now because we would be here all friggin' afternoon watching the amount of trailers that came out and everything like that. So we're just not gonna do that. But we are gonna talk about a couple of things. Physical media collectors. Bloody Disgusting has announced a series of Walmart exclusive steelbooks arriving at a store near you on August 20th. The Bloody Disgusting Blu-ray Steelbook collection features 5 horror titles from Lionsgate. They are Wolf Creek, Leatherface, Sinister, Texas Chainsaw, You're Next, I Spit on Your Grave, and Hannibal Rising. Each release features eye-catching specialty commissioned artwork created by the artist Bond. Each steelbook has a suggested retail price of $24.99 and is available for pre-order at Walmart.com. None of those really appeal to me, in all honesty. Like if it was the original Texas Chainsaw, maybe, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre, not just Texas Chainsaw. Your next, maybe. Sinister, maybe. They just don't appeal to me. Um, because they're not like the best movies out there. There's so many better movies they could have chose, but I guess they have an agreement with Lionsgate, and that's what Lionsgate wants to put out. Uh, Personally, I would just go to Arrow or one of the boutique stores if you want a steelbook. I mean, honestly. But yeah. So if you like those movies, though, I mean, if you're a fan of those movies, check them out. $24.99. And you get the steelbook. I know a lot of people don't collect physical media no more. I do. I love my movies. I will always collect physical media, and when people ask, I tell them the same thing. Go to Netflix and what's a movie you want? You go to Netflix, it's not there. You go to Prime, it's not there. You go to Screenbox, Shutter, Tubi, any of these other places, it's not there. Well, guess what? It's in my collection. I can go grab it whenever I want. Um, but yeah, Walmart, check them out. Moving on, this is actually pretty cool right here. You're gonna need a bigger a bigger display shelf because Lego has officially unveiled a new set based on the Spielberg 1975 classic Jaws. This new collectible diorama commemorates the legendary blockbuster in brick form. Along with the set itself, Lego and Universal have also crafted a new short film titled Jaws in a Jiffy, which serves as a recreation of the whole film in just 90 seconds on the Lego Instagram page. The Lego idea here. Hold on, let me do this real quick, because guys, I've got. How's it going, Chainers? Hi, pretty sure that's Pile. How's it going, guys? Appreciate you joining us. But here, hold on, let me look at this. Let me see. I got a picture of it. Hold on. Of the where did it go? There it is. All right. This is the Lego set. It looks pretty cool. Um, it looks pretty awesome. Uh, so yeah, basically you can go to the Lego Instagram page, see the movie in 90 seconds with Lego figures. The Lego Ideas Jaws faithfully recreates one of the most legendary scenes from the movie when the shark attacks the boat. One of the coolest things about the set is that it was originally cooked up by a fan named Johnny Campbell, and now it's a real thing the world will be able to enjoy in August. This set contains 1,497 pieces and features the likes of Police Chief Martin Brody, marine biologist Matt Hooper, and sailor Sam Quint, along with the Orca boat. The boat itself boasts a detailed cabin with a removable roof and adjustable boom and rigging, plus quite a few accessories. This set can either be placed on a seawater base with the shark attacking the boat, coming completed with an attached printed tile boasting Brody's famous line, "You're going to need a bigger boat." The shark can also be displayed separately from the boat on its own stand. Campbell, explaining how he approached crafting the set, said the following: Jaws is my favorite movie of all time. So I really wanted to recreate it in Lego bricks. Lego building has always been a part of my life in some shape or form, but in order to get all of the finer details, I actually freeze framed Jaws as I watched it so that I could catch a glimpse of the finer details, taking notes as I went along. It is just mind blowing that my design is now an official Lego set. I can't wait to stand in a Lego shop looking at the shelves and seeing a set that I have been involved with and watching someone buying it. It's every Lego fan's dream. Lego has embraced more horror more in recent years, albeit with playful angles. We got a Lego Jurassic Park special on Peacock last year, as well as the Lego Star Wars Terrifying Tales Halloween special in 2021, which was jam-packed with horror movie references. Who knows, maybe we'll get a longer riff on Jaws in the future, complete with Quint's full monologue. I doubt you're gonna get. I mean, maybe one of the movies. The Lego Idea Jaws set is available for Lego insiders on August 3rd and for all on August 6th. It retails for $149.99 and will be available at lego.com or Lego stores. I'm not a Lego fan, but this looks pretty freaking awesome. I might have to buy a Lego set. Uh, let me do this real quick too, because there's also something else that is coming out, and I can't find any information on it, but Funko is releasing some Terrifier, some Art the Clown pops. And check these out. They look awesome. I love the one with him on the tricycle, but yeah, this is from the this is actually from the Funko I want to say it's from the Funko website or Twitter page itself. And they look awesome. They look great. I'm not the biggest Funko Pop collector anymore, but these do look great. These do look fun, and I do like Art the Clown. So that any more Art the Clown collectibles will be great. Will be awesome. But moving on, up again. Um, at the start of March, an image cinematographer Christian Siebold shared on Instagram and revealed that Final Destination 6, which is going by the title Final Destination Bloodlines, was finally, oh, lost it, Finally, after years of development and a 13-year gap between sequels heading into production, then franchise producer Craig Perry took to social media to confirm that Final Destination Bloodlines was indeed filming, the aim being to get this one into theaters in 2025, in time to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the release of the original film. It will even be on IMAX screens, filming wrapped in May. Jeffrey Reddick, who wrote the initial screenplay for the original Final Destination and contributed to Final Destination 2, has been kept in the loop as Final Destination 6 made its way through development and he assigned said that this new sequel is going to shake up the formula a bit. He told Dread Central, with thanks to comicbook.com for the transcript, "I'm really excited with the story that I can't tell you about. I will say that it's not just going to be another kind of we set up a group of people, they cheat death, and then just death gets them. And there's one wrinkle that we kind of added to every movie to kind of like change it up a little bit. This one is a true Final Destination movie, but it doesn't follow that kind of formula that we've kind of established. I think I can say that much. It's very much still a Final Destination movie. It's not a requel. It's not anything crazy, but it's not your typical have an accident, death starts knocking off survivors. It's different than that. That's all I can say, but it's very much a Final Destination movie, and I think it's a really, really smart way. I'm really excited about it. That just seems like him trying to make shit up. Yeah. He later told Collider, "You can't get away from the cheating, death, and death coming after you part of it, because that's what makes it a Final Destination film. But this one doesn't just kind of add another layer. Usually there's a new layer every film. It's like, oh, well, this can save you. This can save you or this can save you. This film dives into it in such a unique way. It attacks it from different angle so you don't feel like, oh, there's an amazing setup and then there's going to be one wrinkle that can potentially save you. There's an expansion of the universe, an expansion of the world of Final Destination that I think fans are going to be really interested in and intrigued by. When I say it, this doesn't add a layer. It's not just, hey, if you murder somebody in your place, you'll live. It kind of unearths a whole deep layer to the story that kind of, yes, makes it really, really interesting. Okay, so he's over explaining this shit by a lot. Um, so basically, according to him, he's I'll get to Sharkula. We talk about the news first. It's always the way I always do it. So basically, it's him over explaining it. The plot is, according to entertainment industry scooper Daniel Richtman, Final Destination Bloodlines has the final synopsis. Just as she's about to leave home for college, 18-year-old Stephanie, who's been having horrific nightmares about dying in a tower accident in the 1960s, discovers that her dream is actually a premonition that happened to her grandmother, Esther, who thwarted death 50 years ago but is now running out of time. Stephanie learns that though her grandmother thwarted death until she died in her 80s, and death has been after the would have been victims of that long ago catastrophe, killing them off and then going after their children. Stephanie and her family realize that their bloodline isn't safe from death, who will take them violently and gruesomely in order, unless someone like Stephanie figures out a way to stop it. The film stars Breck Basinger, Tio Briones, I know I'm butchering these names. Tio Briones, Caitlin Santawana, Richard Harmon, Anna Lore, Owen Patrick Joyner, Max Lloyd Jones, Raya Kilstead, and Tinpo Lee. It also features the return of Tony Todd in his iconic role as mortician William Bloodworth, who was in the first, second, and fifth film. We don't have any confirmation of who the actors are playing. Yeah, skip all that. Basically, we got another Final Destination 6 coming out. Um, and it appears that they're aiming for next year. Get to this next story. Continuing on the Final 6 or the Final Destination line of stories. So basically, Final Destination 6, of course, we just talked about it, is aiming for a 2025 theatrical release. And next year, we might also get a new movie from original Final Destination screenwriter Jeffrey Reddick, as Deadline reports that Reddick is teaming up with Convoke Media, Vast Entertainment, Dreampunk Entertainment, and Emmy-winning director Lane Schefter Bishop, The Venice Murders, to get a film called Bloody Mary Origins into production. Based on the novel Mary the Summoning by Hilary Monahan, Bloody Mary Origins was scripted by Reddick and John Stankari, who sadly passed away in 2018 after a long battle with cancer. This is Stankari's first produced film and will be dedicated to his memory. The story follows a group of teenagers who discover an ancient spell that conjures the real Bloody Mary. When the terrifying entity pulls one of the girls through the mirror, she becomes trapped in the past, living out the real Mary Worth's last days. With time running out, the others must discover a way to save their friend in the past while vanquishing a terrorizing Bloody Mary in the present. Bishop is producing the film through her Vast Entertainment banner, along with Todd Slater of Convoke Media and Dreampunk Entertainment's Ryan Martin and Angela Ziegler. Slater provided the following statement. The script begins or brings Reddick's signature blend of suspense, humor, and horror to a completely new take on the urban legend my friends and I used to play as kids. Much like Final Destination, created a theatrical franchise that generations have enjoyed. Our goal is for Bloody Mary to generate ongoing films with the same impressive longevity. So we could have a Bloody Mary franchise in our future. Monahan did write a sequel to her novel that was called Mary Unleashed. You can pick up a copy. Da, 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 da. You don't need to know where to. In addition to the first Final Destination, Jeffrey Reddick's writing credits include Return to Cabin by the Lake, Final Destination 2, Tamara, Day of the Dead 2008, Dead Awake, The Final Wish, and Don't Look Back. And I think this is going to actually be the final stories. More than 4 years have gone by since it was announced that director Andre Orvidal Alverdal and producer Guillermo del Toro were reteaming for a sequel to their cinematic adaptation of Alvin Schwartz's Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark series of books. Last year, Alverdal and confirmed that Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark 2 was still in the works and a script has been written. The project has just been slowed down by the pandemic. The making of his last Dracula movie, The Last Voyage of the Demeter, which if you haven't watched that, watch that. That was a great movie. And the Hollywood strikes. We heard in December that writer producer Dan and Kevin Hageman were fighting to get the sequel made, but now they have given a disappointing update to the folks at Collider that the sequel has stalled. The screenplay for Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark 2 has been written by the first film's writers, Dan Hageman and Kevin Hageman, working from a story crafted by Guillermo del Toro. Details on the plot and what elements the sequel will be lifting from Schwartz's books have never been revealed. The Hagemans also produced these movies alongside del Toro. In a new interview with Collider, Kevin Hageman said, "It's stalled right now. We actually don't know. We wrote a draft. Guillermo del Toro had a story direction of where to take it. We can't get into it, but we wrote something, and that's the last we know. We know a lot of people liked it, but we also know that nothing's happening right now. We're in the dark with you guys." While the first film was financed by E1 and CBS Films with Lionsgate Distributing, on this one, E1 is partnering with Paramount Pictures. The first Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark was a box office hit, earning just under $106 million worldwide on a budget of $25 million. The film had the following synopsis. It's 1968 in America. Change is blowing in the wind, but seemingly far removed from the unrest in the cities is the small town of Mill Valley, where for generations the shadow of the Bellows family has loomed large. It is in their mansion on the edge of town that Sarah, a young girl with horrible secrets, turned her tortured life into a series of scary stories, written in a book that has transcended time. stories that have a way of becoming all too real for a group of teenagers who discover Sarah's terrifying home. Actually, there's one more story. I take it back. But yeah, so unfortunately, if you're looking forward to scary movies, scary stories to tell in the dark, part two, you're going to have to wait a little bit only because, like I said, I appreciate that movie buff one. I really do. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. I'm going to tell you that one. Um, it's basically our final story. Several years ago, director Brian I'm bad with names. God, Return of the Living Dead 3 got a great special edition Blu-ray release. Um, edition Blu-ray release as part of the Western Video Collector Series. But now a discovery has been made that has fans of the film hoping for a new release as soon as possible. A VHS tape of the first cut of Return of the Living Dead 3, featuring almost 8 minutes of additional never before seen footage, has been unearthed. That tape is now in the hands of filmmaker Dustin Ferguson, who took to social media to share a picture of the tape and associate Chris McGibbon. Ferguson and McGibbon have spent the last few years working together on a highly anticipated documentary on the Night of the Demons franchise. The party's just begun. The legacy of the Night of the Demons, and McGibbon was credited for remixing the audio on the Night of the Demons 4K and Blu-ray released by Scream Factory last year. Ferguson didn't share any details on what's being planned for the first cut of Return of the Living Dead 3. Thank you. I'm glad to hear my voice again as well. Of course, the Owl Light Society, who is proudly presenting the Bloody Binge podcast this week, as usual. Um, but yeah, let's see. Ferguson didn't share any details on what's being planned for the first cut of Return of the Living Dead 3, which has a running time of 1 hour, 44 minutes, and 23 seconds. But there seems to be some kind of release in the works, and more information will be provided soon. Directed by Yuzna from a screenplay by John Penny. Return of the Living Dead 3 has the following synopsis. Well, I think we've all seen it, but Julie and Kurt are sweethearts, but puppy love turns into tragedy when a motorcycle accident kills Julie and separates the young lovers permanently. Still devoted and very heartbroken, Kurt tries desperately to keep Julie alive by exposing her to trioxin, a potent drug which brings the dead back to life. There's only one problem. When she's revived, she has an intense urge to feed on human flesh. Now Kurt's find a way to manage the undead while not becoming dinner himself. The film stars Melinda Clark, J. Trevor Edmond, Kent McCord, Basil Wallace, Sarah Douglas, James T. Callahan, Mike Moroff, Sal Lopez, Fabio Urena, Pia Reyes, and Dana Lee. Yeah, it's everybody loves Return of the Living Dead 3. I do, as movie buff has got. What are you doing, you stupid computer? Yes, it is. They are some of mine too. I love the first one. And for those who don't know, we actually yesterday we would have celebrated the 40th anniversary this week of the original Return of the Living Dead. 40 years ago last night, or I guess July 3rd, 40 years ago, Trash would have jumped on that in that grave, or jumped up on that. Yeah, I can't talk today. Jumped up in the graveyard and literally had probably one of the best nude scenes in any horror movie out there. Good old Linnea Quigley, looking gorgeous. But yeah, that's going to be all the news for this week. Again, there's not much. There really isn't much this week, and I'm blaming the holiday, honestly. Um, with a lot of stuff going on, everybody taking breaks, and there's a lot of trailers. Like I said, that's mostly what the news is this week. Is a lot of trailers, and like I said, If I had gone through and put up any of the trailers or all the trailers, we'd be here forever doing this and not talking about our feature movie this week, Sharkula. Of course, we are going to celebrate the beginning of Shark Week this week. I believe Shark Week actually starts Sunday on Discovery, but we're going to celebrate it just a bit early with this very low budget, fun movie. But guys, we're going to take a break real quick. We will see you in about 3 minutes for Sharkula.
Greetings and shabibans. We are the Retro Reductibus Cephala Podcast, a long-form bi-weekly show that celebrates all the things that made growing up awesome.
Yeah, that sounds good, but I don't know what all those words mean.
I think what Parasite Steve's trying to say is that on Retro Redoctopus, we explore a range of retro goodness, from toys, video games, and movies, to cartoons, and even snacks and school lunches.
Oh.
And we do it all with a positive spin, a slew of killer guests, and some very adult language.
And you know what else is cool?
No.
This crazy show is part of the Door King Podcast Network with new episodes every Tentacle Tuesday.
What's that?
And if waiting 2 weeks for a new episode gives you a sad, know that we drop bonus episodes all the time, like the off-format Crow's Nest and an interview series we call The Brig.
You can listen to Retro Octopus on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any app that's cool enough to carry the only show that celebrates all the things that make growing up awesome.
Hello and welcome back. What is that up there? Hold on. There we go. Fix that. Hello and welcome back to the Bloody Binge Movie Podcast. We are talking about Sharkula this week. We, of course, like I said, come Friday. You are in Sharky Renfield, so this would be Kyle Rappaport, I believe. Thank you for joining us. Sharkula. We're like I said, we're celebrating Shark Week this week. It starts on Sunday, I believe, on Discovery, but we're gonna celebrate just a little bit early. And we are going. So basically, Sharkula came out in 2022. It was written and directed by Mark Polonia. It stars James Kelly and as John, Tim Hatch as Arthur, of course, Kyle Rappaport, who I believe says he is in the chat, Movie Buff One, plays Renfield. And there's a few other people. I mean, there's not. I mean, and Not a bunch of names I recognize. I think I know I've watched a couple of Mark Polonia's movies before. You'll definitely know him if you are like me and you're into very low budget horror movies. Um, I love low budget. I love the low budget fun horror movies. Yeah, we'll get into it. I'm picky sometimes, but it's not. We'll get to the review at the end, but let's go ahead and get started. The film opens up on a secluded beach as the Wild Eye Releasing and Polonia Brothers Entertainment logos appear. We cut underwater where you see basically this, and I'm not gonna lie, it's a cheesy looking shark. I mean, again, low budget. It's what you expect. It looks like it has a lot of damage to it, like it's been a lot of fights in that. We then cut to a field where there is a man in a cloak running from a group of villagers. The villagers are screaming. Basically, they're chasing. He runs away. Then the villagers, about five of them, chasing him. They're screaming. Basically they're running away. You don't see their faces, but you're death to Dracula and all these other words. Other sentences that basically that needless to say that it's obvious they're chasing Dracula down. I would. I wish I would have seen some. I wish I would have seen some um pitchforks, torches, and that. But yeah, it was there. The boy they're kind of just thrown in. I don't know if you know like trauma style, like where I did an appearance in a trauma movie as a member of an audience of a wrestling show for what would be the trauma movie though it was Toxic Tutu. But as they panned over, basically they basically have words coming over them. Uh, my master. Well, we're gonna get to it. We're gonna get to it. Basically, basically as they panned across the audience, they show, and then of course, they have their voices coming over them. Not really the voices from the audience, but Dracula basically ends up reaching the end of a cliff, turns around. The villagers are, going, oh, we're, your end is near, all that good stuff with him. He hisses at him, and one just throws a fucking knife, and it stabs him, and he falls off the cliff into the ocean. Um, and then a voiceover comes over, and I believe they never really say it, but I'm assuming it is Van Helsing is the one that threw the knife. If you follow the Dracula lore, of course. But the voiceover comes over that in the darkness of the last of the scourge of Dracula, as he plunged off the cliff to the ocean below, his heart pierced with my sword. It was a knife, really, but little did we know that there were forces working beyond our understanding, forces determined to keep Dracula alive. And at this point, there's a shark biting Dracula's arm. Dark forces that we had no comprehension of, forces that we determined to keep the curse of Dracula alive, that were determined to keep the curse of Dracula alive. Meanwhile, we see an empty shore, there's a campfire, and then there's a fire dancer just, dancing on the beach. An alliance was made that day between man and beast, and a cult was determined to keep Dracula's evil and presence alive here on this earth. Where would he go? Where would he end up? And how would he rule in the future? What type of a people would want to keep Dracula's legend alive? For now, forever, and in the future. In the next century, in the next 2 centuries, how long can evil live? The entire time there's a woman basically, doing the fire dancing and that on the ocean. Then we get the title screen. We get basically your typical stock footage of, kind of like a New England harbor and beach and stuff like that. And there's a guy, and there's some very generic style music, almost not really Beach Boys style, but I've heard this music a lot. And then over it, there's a group of guys singing Sharkula, Sharkula. It's not a bad opening. Again, again, it's low budget, so you got to take it as it comes. You know, um, if you go into it thinking you're going to get Jaws level, or you're going to get basically anything but a low budget kind of like almost sci-fi, like low budget sci-fi style movie, you're going to be disappointed. But I thought it was okay for what it was at the beginning. But so basically the song ends, the title ends. We cut over to these two guys walking. Um, One of the guys tells the other one, basically one's getting on the other guy's nerve because he's whistling the whole. I guess doing a lot of whistling, and then the whistling guy tells the other guy that his constant complaining is getting on his nerves and that he needs to lighten up. So basically, we find out their names, but we don't actually find out which one is which until about 25 minutes into the movie. So from here until I find out their names, I'm going to call the one complainer and the other one whistler. Um, that's how I did it while writing the notes, and that's how I'm going to read it. Um, so basically, they're just getting on their nerves. They kind of make it seem like they've been walking forever. Um, when there's buses and stuff like that, but um, you can see vehicles in the background. They're almost like they're either walking through someone's property or walking through like a mechanic shop. They're walking down this rocky path. Complaining guy says he'll lighten up when they get to Arkham and start working so that they can afford to pay for college. I guess these are college age kids, but guys, the dude has gray hair. I've seen, and I'm not big. I'm not dissing it. Okay. Well, I mean, and it wasn't like I said. It fit the opening. The opening song did fit the opening. Yeah, John would be, I believe, the complainer. Who did this? Who basically until I learned their names, of course. Um, but they say they'll lighten up when they get to Arkham and start working, so they're gonna. But basically, they have gray hair, guys. They're not college age kids, but again, what's the best word to put it? Disassociating belief, I guess you could say. I can't remember the right words to say right now, but Whistler said university is expensive, and they knew that going in. Complainer guy opens a letter, and Whistler asks how many times he's going to read the letter. Complainer says until they get their first paycheck. The letter reads, "Dearest Arthur Smith and John Beaumont." And I had to ask, why is the letter addressed to the same two people? Why did they get two separate letters? Uh, Please accept this letter as acceptance for summer employment at the Arkham Dock and Marina. Room and board at the Bucket O' Chum Inn and restaurant are part of this seasonal employment. Check in at the front desk at your arrival, and all matters will be taken care of. Best wishes, your employer, Vladimir Constantine. Whistler says it sounds too good to be true, and they keep walking as we get some more stock footage of the beach. So they get to the inn. Complainer says it doesn't look very inviting and apologizes for being in a bad mood. Whistler says it'll all fall into place and agrees with Complainer that there is like an open air of dread to the place. They both notice they haven't seen any vehicles going by. Whistler says he guesses if you aren't into boating or fishing, there isn't much to do in this town. Complainer then comes to the realization that hey, there might not be any women in this town. What the hell? There may not be many women in this town. Whistler tells Complainer that I'm sure there are some 400-pound salt of the sea females around with tattoos and facial hair just looking to call him Big Daddy. They share a laugh and keep walking. That was pretty funny. I'm not gonna lie, that was pretty funny. They share a laugh and keep walking around. Complainer says everything is all rusted and decayed, which I'm from a beach town. I'm from Virginia Beach. If you have anything metal that is not stainless steel, that is anywhere near the ocean or like within a couple of miles of it, it's gonna rust. Like it's gonna rust. No questions about it. Uh, Complainer says everything, or we already spread that. Whistler says typical coastal New England town on the brink of collapse. Then, with some terrible editing, I'm not gonna lie. I'm sorry. It was bad editing. They find the Bucket O Chum restaurant. It's bad editing because they took a photo of an actual like restaurant, an inn, I guess. Used and I from what looks like used like paint shop or an editing a really cheesy editing tool, blacked it out and just wrote Bucket O Chum over it. And yeah, it kind of it was noticeable. It was noticeable. But again, low budget movie, you have to expect things like that. You just do. So keep that again. Keep it in mind when you're watching a movie like this. That low budget, it's gonna be low. It's gonna be low graphics and stuff. Um, we get some more New England coastal stock footage, and then we see and this blew my mind. It's a fucking bat shark. Um, it's literally the shark, a bad CGI shark with fucking bat wings on it. Now, if my wife saw it, she'd probably want one. She would want a stuffed version of this. But I had to giggle about at it a little bit because it was funny. Um, there is a growl, and our heroes are walking by, and basically we flip over. The heroes are walking by the railroad tracks. They get to the entrance of the restaurant where Whistler is complaining now and explains what chum, and basically tells them what chum is. Of course, chum is what you throw off the. If you watch Jaws, they're throwing off the back of the shark when Sheriff Brody finally sees the original, or finally sees the great white. Um, all of a sudden, a dude dressed like he is straight out of Weird Al's Amish Paradise video pops up for a jump scare. It's it might scare some people, but it didn't scare me, let's say. But that is their guest in the chat right now, Mr. Kyle Rappaport. It is Renfield. He apologizes as the heroes explain why they are here and mention that they are looking for Mr. Constantine. Renfield tells them that Mr. Constantine doesn't see visitors, and they hand him the letter. Uh, they hand him the letter, and Complainer says he bet he can't even read. Renfield tells them, "Well, I can read and I can hear just as well." Whistler asks if they can speak to him, if they can speak to Mr. Constantine now. Renfield tells them all in due time, and that Constantine will seek them out when he's ready. They ask who he is, and they ask who the guy is. He introduces himself as Renfield. So we all know where this is going when he says Renfield. Uh, he tells the heroes that he assists Mr. Constantine in running the establishment. Whistler asks if his name is really Renfield, and it kind of pisses him off a little bit. Renfield tells him he's lived there his entire life. Um, he tells them the town has seen better days, and that Constantine is trying his best to return to the town to its former glory. Renfield shows the guys to their room, and it turns out to only be one room. Uh, they didn't like the idea of it being basically two guys, one room, one bed. But Renfield tells them that he has strict orders that they share a room. Complainer asks, "What if one of them wants to hook up with a chick at night?" And Renfield basically makes it clear that nobody in Arkham is allowed out after dark. That the whole town shuts down at 8 p.m. and no one goes out. Whistler asks, "What if he wants a drink or something?" Renfield tells him, "Well, the bar's open until 7:30." Renfield hands them the menus and tells them he's the cook as well. Renfield hands them the keys to the room and tells them to go get settled. And then in about 2 hours, he's going to take them over to the dock where they will basically show them where they'll be working. Complainer, again, we've learned their names, but they still haven't told us who is who, and we are already 10 minutes in. Says the room is going to be hot as hell in the summer with no AC, which I've lived in a house in the middle of summer at the beach with no air conditioner, and the next line, Whistler says they have the ocean breeze. Yeah, no, it doesn't help. It's still hot as balls in any room or any house that doesn't have an air conditioner. Um, Whistler asks if he's sure he wants to do this, and tells him, "Well, we could be making $15 an hour at McDonald's back in New Haven." Whistler complains a little more about the 8 p.m. curfew. And the complainer tells him sharing a room with him isn't his idea of a fun time either. Complainer sees a woman running across the train tracks as the scene ends. Renfield walks down to the basement where a coffin is laying on the ground covered in a net. Uh, Renfield basically gets down almost like he's praying to it, uh, and basically he tells his master that he's done as he's requested and that he's taken the boys, again grown ass men, gray hair, over to the dock shortly to go over their work duties. There are some whispers heard as if Constantine is basically telepathically talking to Renfield. Renfield tells him that everything is planned for tonight and that our guy will find this most appealing. Uh, we then basically it's almost like they kind of pan over, but they just cut over to a woman who's bruised and bloodied. She's tied up in the basement. Renfield walks over to her and kind of laughs maniacally, um, and the scene ends. I mean, we're getting it. We're getting there. It's leaving you a lot of questions and that, which is good at being a good movie. Um, and yeah, I mean, I'm down for the story so far. Uh, we see another. If we basically cut over to another building. We see a woman staring out of the window, and then she sees Renfield outside watching her. We cut to a library where Renfield is waiting for her. He confronts the woman. He tells her that his master has spoken to him about her. She doesn't understand why. He isn't pleased with what she's done. Apparently, mailing letters is forbidden, and Renfield asks who it was for. She says a friend from grammar school, and that's all. Now, I will say they didn't say what the letter is for, but I'm going to assume it's the letter that the guys handed to him. I think it's safe to assume that one. She says a friend from grammar school, and that's all. Renfield says Master doesn't believe her, and if she does it again, she will end up as a sacrifice. She begs not that anything but that. And her punishment, um, didn't really have a punishment or anything. The ban lost my spot. Hold on. She says she doesn't mean anything by the letter and that it won't happen again. Renfield tells her, I know, and here's the thing. The woman who plays Mina, I've seen her in a movie before. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but she played a wrestler, a female wrestler who was a big star. She went camping with a bunch of her fans, and there was a slasher out there too. Can't remember the name of the movie for the life of me. But I enjoyed that one. I did enjoy that one. But Renfield tells her that she's lucky the master likes and desires her. Renfield desires her too, more than the master. Renfield caresses her hair and tells her he would have a different purpose for her if she was his bride. And the woman tells him that she likes him too, and that he keeps her safe and out of trouble. Yes, Camp Murder. That was it. I enjoy. I like that movie. That was fun to watch. um, and she says she needs his help to escape this awful place. Renfield gets really mad and says nobody leaves. He tells her to watch what she says and thinks because his rats have ears. She tells him that Renfield is the only rat in Arkham, and she spits in his face. She kind of spits in his face. She really doesn't, but I get what they're going for. And he slaps her. Um, I believe if I remember right, I believe you were the guy who had the crush on her, the big crush on her, one of the fans, if I remember right. Um, uh, she loses it on him, telling Renfield that he had better be careful because the master would rain down the wrath of Hades if he thought Renfield laid a hand on her. If he knew the things Renfield said, and the things he thought in that twisted mind of his. She cries as Renfield apologizes and says sometimes he can't control himself. He can't control his temper, you know? She says his time is coming, and when it does, even the master won't be able to help him. That ends the scene. Again, good. It progresses the story a little bit. You can see, the you can see the traitor. Renfield becoming the traitor that he wants to take over all that stuff. Um, Again, fun scene, fun watch. Interesting. Yes, I do. Yeah, like I said, I do remember that. It was a big crush on her, and um, weren't they having weren't those two actually having an affair in the movie? If I remember right, I think they were having an affair because I know she was cheating on her husband. Um, and you kept telling her how much he was holding her back, or your character kept telling her how much he was holding her back. Uh, we get more footage of the hold on, I'm sorry. We cut to a dock where we got a drunk guy walking. He's got an empty bottle. It's obviously an empty bottle. Um, he's pretending he's drinking out of it. We get more footage of the bat shark swimming around. He says how much he hates this town and how much he hates Vladimir Constantine. Drunk dude says Constantine has corrupted this town when he got there with his rules and his companions. He says that he should be fed to that beast that roams the shores, his pets. We didn't see the shark looking up at him. Basically you see these glowing yellow eyes, kind of red, yellow kind of eyes. We go back to him. Now there's a clear liquid in the water. I'm assuming it's water, or clear liquid in the bottle. I'm assuming it's water. It's probably supposed to be like a clear whiskey or rum. Um, the drunk guy looks into the water and Sharkula leaps out, bites him on the neck. Sharkula goes back into the water, and I don't get this one. I'm sorry, I don't get this one. A fucking purple dragon um, starts flying across the stream on a stock footage shot of the beach. And what the fuck? What the hell? Why was there a purple dragon? I'm sure it was supposed to be Sharkula, but why the fuck was there a purple dragon? That that just blew my mind. Oh Lord, we cut back to the restaurant where Complainer and Whistler are sitting at a table. Whistler is reading from a newspaper, and apparently it's 15 years old. Um, and he basically, says, "Well, don't they even have news in this area?" Uh, so apparently they haven't had a new newspaper there in like 15 years. Renfield says it's time to go to the docks. On the way, he basically explains to them that shipping is Arkham's bread and butter. Mr. Constantine uh, ships and receives shipments from all over the East Coast. Complainer sees the woman from earlier looking out of her window and waves at her. She kind of waves back but ducks down as Renfield quickly turns to him. Renfield asks, what are you doing? Complainer tells him just waving at the pretty lady across the street. Renfield says Mr. Constantine prohibits his employees from fraternizing with the locals, women included. Complainer asks if this place is a monastery or something. Renfield says Mina, of course that's her name. Again, if you watch Dracula, if you've ever heard Dracula, which I think most people have, you probably already guessed that her name was Mina. Runs the historical society and belongs to Mr. Constantine. Whistler says nobody belongs to anyone unless you mean they're married. One of the guys says Arkham has a lot of strange rules, and Renfield says Arkham is a strange town. We get to the dock, and Renfield tells the guys that basically the containers arrive at night and will be ready for them first thing in the morning. Whistler asks if nobody's allowed out past 8, then who unloads it? Renfield explains that the ship hands do, and then they leave immediately. Their shift starts at 10 a.m. and then their shift ends at 6. They get paid every Friday in cash, which the guys like that idea. I like that idea too. Go ahead and pay me in cash. Um, that was one of the bad things about my old job, my last job. They only paid us every other week, and it sucked. Um, but Renfield says they can start now or in the morning, and they both is like, well, yeah, we're gonna start in the morning. What? Why would we voluntarily start tonight? Hell. Um, the scene ends. Again, we're we're progressing the story along. It's moving. Like I said, I'm not hating the movie. I'm gonna tell you that now. I'm not hating the movie so far. There's stuff that annoys me, but it's little minor shit. We then cut to an empty beach where the fire spinner is dancing again. I said fire spinner. It's a fire dancer. Yeah, she's a fire dancer. Beautiful woman. I mean, very good looking woman. But she's dancing again, spinning her fire. We cut to the woman who's chained up in the basement again. And now Constantine is standing in front of her. Guys, at this point, I think we can all figure out that Constantine is actually Dracula. But it is Dracula. Um, he tells the woman that her ordained time has come. We get more shots of the fire dancer. She's walking a little bit, and then the CGI shark, the really shitty CGI shark. I say shitty is cheap, shitty, whatever you want to call it. It's not a good. It's not a really good CGI shark, but again, my wife would freaking love the shark with the bat wings on it. Complainer is now looking out the window as we cut to Dracula leading the trapped woman, Renfield, and a couple of demons down the path. Complainer tells Whistler to come look at this, and Whistler says, looks like some sort of ritual or something. And then Whistler says, there's no screaming scene. Let's not worry about it. Again, this is when I start bringing it up. 20 minutes into the movie now, and there's nothing to tell who is who, what their names are. Again, we learned their names, but 20 minutes into the movie, they still haven't told us which one's John and which one's Arthur. But Complainer says they should follow them. We should follow them because it could be some kind of weird orgy. Whistler basically says, he thinks they should lay low because it's their first night. Is it really, is it really? Do you really want to see any of the people we've met so far in an orgy? Touche. We cut to the fire dancer again. She's on the deserted beach at night. We go back there and we go back to basically the procession being led by Dracula. We cut to the beach where again, I don't get this part. There's a random woman. She's standing there. It's obviously a vampire hissing and that. We really don't get an explanation of this woman. At least I didn't see one. And what also bothered me too is this bothered me about every vampire movie. If I see the sun, I'm getting mad. Okay, I'm getting mad. It was clearly, and I'm pretty sure they used it for the lighting, but it's clearly still daytime out as the procession is still moving. As the movie is basically moving towards the beach. Dracula offers his service and powers to Sharkula, the devilfish of the waters. The woman is now revealed to be a sacrifice from Dracula to Sharkula. Sharkula jumps out of the water and eats the woman. They do basically a whole ritual around this altar. Sharkula comes out, eats the woman. There's your sacrifice. Complainer looks out the window again and sees lightning. And we're getting like really close. Like again, low budget movie where we're getting really close. So you really can't see the shark eating the woman, but it's obvious what the shark's doing. Then we go back to the bat shark swimming away as we cut to the fire dancer again. And then again, this purple fucking dragon pops out of the water, and we end the scene. I'm still not understanding the purple dragon. I'm sure there's a reason, but I'm still not understanding the purple dragon. We open back up, and it's that shitty Photoshop sign again. That sign annoys me. It annoys me a little bit, but it's like I get it, but it still annoys me. Complainer turns down some coffee from Renfield and asks about the scream that he heard last night. Renfield tells him that what he heard was that the seagulls eating fish that are spawning near the shore at night. Complainer tells him, "Well, I kind of know the difference between a seagull and a woman screaming," which I hate seagulls. I can't stand seagulls, but yeah, they do kind of sound like a woman screaming or a woman screeching. Whistler shows up and says it was probably the seagulls. They head to work and they end up walking up on the altar, the Sharkula altar. Um, Whistler tells them they need to get to work on their first big day. We cut to Renfield, who again he's on his knees and he looks like he's praying over the coffin. He tells Dracula that one of the workers is very curious and needs to be watched. He tells Dracula that he will handle him if they cause trouble. Renfield then goes and picks up the dead woman's clothes and starts sniffing her bra like a creep. We cut to the docks where our heroes are working hard moving crates. Um, but yeah, back to that. Yeah, he picks up her clothes and just starts sniffing the bra. And I know it's supposed to basically make Renfield look like a creep, like a pervert. We know what it's for, basically. We've seen it in a few other movies we've done here on the Bloody Binge. But we cut to the docks where our heroes are working hard, moving the crates. The complainer decides to take a break and get some air outside. As he walks out and takes his break, he looks into the water and sees two glowing eyes looking back up at him. We then see Sharkula swim away as complainer asks, like, "What the hell?" We then pan over and we see Mina standing at the docks and she's got these sticks in her hands. Um, Complainer walks up and starts talking her up. Um, Mina says she isn't allowed to talk to him. Complainer asks what the hell is wrong with this place and that he's not gonna hurt her. Mina tells him he should go as fast and as far away as he can. Complainer asks if there's a danger they should know of. He tells her she is very pretty. She says, "Thank you, John." Finally, 25 minutes into the movie, we get this guy's name. So we can tell the two apart now. Complainer is John. Whistler is Arthur. Um, and plus, how the fuck does she know his name? He didn't even introduce himself like to anyone. Like they've never said their names at all the entire movie, but she knows his name. That was kind of weird. John asks if she ever goes out and does anything, and she shakes her head no. He decides it's appropriate to ask her out, even though Renfield clearly told him that he's not supposed to be talking to anyone. Mina says she has to go. She drops the sticks to the ground. John picks up the sticks and heads back inside. Where Arthur asks him, where he's been, and since Arthur's been doing all the fucking work. John tells him he was talking to Mina, and Arthur reminds him to stay the hell away from her. John doesn't like that idea, and Arthur says, like her or not, he'd better stay away from her, Mister. John takes Arthur outside where he saw the glowing eyes in the water. He shows her, and says Mina was throwing these sticks in the water, and we now see that they are actually crosses, and that they chased whatever the thing in the water was away. Um, John says he thinks their boss has some kind of weird hypnotic hold over the town. John also says he thinks something weird is going on here, and Arthur says he doesn't know and that there has to be an explanation to all of this. We cut to Renfield in his room, and he's got a whole pile of underwear that he's playing in. Um, and it's obviously the underwear of all the women that have been sacrificed over the years. Very clean, by the way. The underwear is very clean. We hear the whispers again, and basically it's Dracula giving Renfield instructions to invite John and Arthur to dinner with him tonight. Renfield gets angry and starts slamming the undergarments around like he didn't like that idea. There's still more whispering, but Renfield appears to be ignoring it. We get some more footage of the purple dragon flying around the beach. Again, I still don't understand the purple dragon. The guys get back to their room and find an invitation to dinner at 7 p.m. John wants to use this time to tell the boss to get with the times, and Arthur says it's 6:30 already, so we better get ready. We cut outside to get the vampire woman on the beach, uh, with some more footage of Sharkula swimming around. We then cut to a dining room, which does look like the inside of someone's house. I'm pretty sure a lot of this was filmed in someone's house, uh, where Mr. Constantine is waiting for his guests. Dracula tells Renfield to bring the meals for their employees and guests. He also reminds Renfield to call him Constantine during dinner. Dracula tells the men that Renfield is weird but harmless and that he brought him over from the old country with him. Arthur thanks him for the opportunity for summer work, but John has to be a dickhead. John tells Dracula that his rules for the town are very strict and a bit harsh. Dracula explains, well, I come from a place where strict rules and regulations keep a town thriving and free from corruption. Basically, the explanation is, where I come from, strict rules and laws and regulations keep the town moving in a prosperous manner versus, people being corrupt or anything like that. Um, he tells them that nobody is forced to stay in the town and that people come and go as they please, and that the ones who stay have accepted their antiquated values. They have a toast as Renfield serves the meal. John asks if Dracula is eating, and Dracula says, well, I eat late at night. Don't worry about me. You go ahead and eat your food. He asks how the work at the dock is going, and um, they say it's going fine, but the shipping schedule is a bit weird. Dracula says because of the speed of the receipt and deliveries, it has to be that way. John asks, well, what's in the crates? Dracula basically tells him, soil, food, things like that. He cautions them to not let curiosity get the best of them and opens the crates. And for them not to open the crates. He said it would be disastrous to the product if they opened the crates. John says they would never do that, and then kind of gets a little offended. He kind of gets a little offended, as if like Dracula was accusing him of something. Arthur asks if it has happened before, and Dracula says yes, and they were reprimanded harshly. He says it cost him a lot. John asks if he fed them to the shark, and Dracula gets a little irritated by this, a little offended. Arthur tells him to shut up, and Dracula laughs a little bit. He goes, you Americans and your sense of humor. John says he saw a shark today, and Arthur says you thought you saw a shark. Dracula says, well, yeah, there's sharks in the water. It's the water. It's the fucking water. And they do frequent docks and piers looking for food. He says they are scavengers by nature. John says this one looked evil. John tells him that Mina was throwing crosses in the water, and that he thinks that is what scared it away. Dracula tells them that Mina is a superstitious woman and that he'll have a talk with her if they like. Arthur yells at John for getting Mina in trouble, and John tells him that he just thought Dracula should know. He then brings up the procession and screaming from the night before. And John also brings up that they found that about the altar that they found on the beach. Dracula kind of explains this away by saying, that in Transylvania there is an old custom where they say some native prayers in a parade to the beach. They were there. They make sacrifices of flowers and fish, basically to kind of like bring good luck to the fishermen with their catch. Dracula says they do it several times over the summer solstice, and that he can assure them they don't sacrifice virgins at midnight on their coast, which means they totally do. John asks if they could attend one, and Dracula says, "Well, unfortunately, it's for locals only, and that the other locals would get angry if an outsider participated in the ritual." Uh, Dracula does say it's getting late, and he has some other business to attend to. He bids them good night, and Renfield basically takes their place with while they're still eating them. We cut to some more of the purple dragon flying around. Again, I don't understand the purple dragon. We cut to a couple in a car, and it's not starting. The woman basically mentions how big of a piece of shit it is, and the guy says the shortcut was her idea. She reminds him that if they didn't take the shortcut, he wouldn't have gotten a banger on the hood 10 miles back. She tells him to get out and fix it, and motherfucker, they are clearly in someone's lawn. Like, I wish they would have moved it to a road or something like that. Moved it to the road. They're clearly in someone's lawn. We see the shark's fin floating on the water. Reggie, we learn is the guy's name. He walks away looking for help, and apparently she didn't notice him walk away. Because she's basically, screaming for him, going, "Hey, Reggie, are you fixed it yet?" He sees the eyes in the water, and Sharkula jumps out and basically pulls Reggie into the water to never be seen again. Rest in peace, Reggie. The woman is yelling for Reggie and asking what's taking so long. She blows the horn, and of course, not getting an answer because Reggie's not there anymore. We hear the whispers over the music again, and the woman looks up and screams as we cut to black. So yeah, we basically it's a typical scene. Car breaks down, couple gets murdered. Most horror movies have it. It's always a fun scene. It's always fun to do. It's always done differently. I liked it. We cut to Arthur reading a Dracula Lives comic. This annoys me a little bit too here in a second. As John keeps looking out the window, and it's clearly in the middle of the day, and it's the sun's shining bright through the window. Again, do it at night. Do it at night, or black out the window. Arthur tells John that he almost got them fired, and John says, "I ain't afraid of Constantine or anyone else for that matter." He asks Arthur what he's reading, and Arthur tells him he's reading Dracula by Bram Stoker, and no, he fucking isn't. It is a comic book. It is clearly a comic book that says Dracula Lives. That is not the novel. John says how appropriate, and Arthur basically says that he got it from the nightstand instead of a Bible. I would love to find a copy of Dracula in a hotel room instead of a Bible. Trust me, it would be awesome. Arthur says that Arkham is would be a pretty good place for Dracula to vacation if he were real. John says, yeah, it kind of is, and he does the thinker pose. The whole thumb, forefinger on your chin, thumb beneath the chin. He does that pose, and we fade out. We cut to Mina in her library where now Dracula confronts her. He scares her. He apologizes and says it's almost curfew. And Mina says, "Oh, it's almost curfew. I guess I need to get going." Dracula asks if she's been talking to the new dock workers, and she says, "No, me, no." He tells her that he knows she's lying, and she says it's just small talk. I swear. He tells her that they saw the shark and that she was throwing crosses into the water. Dracula says if their master wants fresh meat, he can take it. And if she interferes, there will be punishment. Mina tells Dracula that it isn't her that he needs to worry about. She basically starts revealing that Renfield plots against him in his mind and in his heart. Mina tells Dracula that Renfield tells lies about her because he wants her for himself. Dracula says Renfield is a little fly and that he could crush him to dust in mere seconds. Mina says that he's as cunning as he is stupid and perverse. Dracula says Renfield knows that Mina could only love Dracula and nobody else. Dracula says to make no mistake that she will be his bride, and that when he decides to join him, she will also have eternity. He goes to bite her, and she wakes up as if she was asleep. So we're moving the story along. I'm not hating it. There's things annoying me, and it's stuff that could easily be fixed. In all honesty, we cut back to the bedroom again, and John decides he's been cooped up enough. He's had enough, and he wants to go for a walk. And to hell with the rules. He puts his beanie on and he does a really bad job of sneaking around. We cut to Dracula with his hand around Renfield's throat and Renfield begging. Dracula says Mina told him some things about Renfield tonight, and some things displease him. Or some things that displease him. John sees this as Renfield says Mina lies about him because she's jealous of his service to Dracula. John looks in the mirror, and of course, there is no reflection for Dracula. He just sees Renfield hanging up in the air. Dracula looks his way, and John ducks. And apparently, Dracula's fucking blind, and John is not doing a very good job hiding. Dracula tells Renfield he expects more out of him and to not disappoint him. Dracula then turns into a bat and bites Renfield in the neck. Renfield drops and says, "Yes, master." John sneaks out of the restaurant at clearly someone's garage door and sees the demons walking around. Changes his mind and heads back inside, and he sees Renfield at the bar. Uh, and he sneaks around him and basically heads into the basement where now John has found Dracula's casket. We pan over to see the woman from the car earlier tied up in the spot where the other woman was tied up before. She has a really bad attitude for someone who needs help. She does. She was kind of getting bitchy. She tells him her boyfriend is missing and that some guy attacked her in the middle of the night. John asks if he wore a cape and spoke with a funny accent. She says, "Yeah, how do you know him?" John's like, unfortunately, yeah. She tells John that she's hungry and tired and to please come closer. She spawns teeth and she's been turned into a vampire. She tells John that she's thirsty for his blood, and she's got a really bad attitude. John says he's out of there, and turns, and Renfield is behind him, and then stabs him with a fucking machete. Renfield says, "Blood for you, bitch," and drags John away as the woman hisses. So basically, John's dead, and we are to assume that Renfield is now going to feed her the blood from John. Good scene, good kill. I liked it. Definitely saw it coming, but I liked it. It was enjoyable. Good kill. I think it's our first human on human kill maybe our own. Yeah, our first kind of human on human kill in the movie. We cut out to a sunrise on the beach as Sharkula is swimming through the deep. We cut back and we have the fire dancer dancing on the beach again, and then we have the images of that female vampire who really still hasn't been explained. In the background as she's dancing in front of it. And the camera pans up as if Sharkula is swimming out of the water. And then here's the fucking purple dragon flying around again. And I think it's safe to say that the purple dragon is supposed to be Sharkula. But we now cut to Arthur. He's waking up, bitching that John didn't wake him up for breakfast. He runs downstairs, asks Renfield if he's seen John. Renfield says he was in the dining room earlier, but left rather quickly. Arthur says he hopes he isn't chasing after that Mina chick, and Renfield says he hopes not either. We get a few shots of Arthur searching around for John, looking in the places they've already been, the docks, the beach, all that good stuff. Of course, he doesn't find him. We cut to Mina, who's working in her library, and we get Dracula whispering her name, and she looks up to see kind of like an disembodied Dracula, like she's trying to appear. He says she will be his, and she asks when she will be free of this nightmare. Arthur is still walking around looking for John when he sees the glowing eyes from the shark staring up at him. We see the fins swim across the water, and Arthur heads back to the inn and tells Renfield that he needs to speak to Constantine now. He says there's something strange going on here, and Renfield tells Arthur that Constantine's away on business and that he handles his affairs when he is away. Arthur wants to leave a message for Constantine, and he grabs Renfield by the shirt, pulls him close, and Renfield asks what the problem is. Arthur says his problem is Renfield, the town, everything. He knows he's lying about John, and he knows what's going on with this mausoleum of a town. And he tells Renfield that he saw the giant shark with glowing eyes in the water, and if Renfield says he doesn't know what it is, he's gonna pound. He's basically gonna beat the shit out of him. Renfield gets scared and tells him that the shark is a sea monster, and his master obeys it. Arthur asks why nobody does anything about it, and Renfield explains that his master rules this town, and that he has a pact with the Sea Devil. Arthur asks if John is dead, and Renfield says yes, he was food for the beast. Arthur does what everyone watching this movie wants to do and punches Renfield square in the face. It was at this point that I realized that Arthur looks a lot like Quint from Jaws. Renfield says he's going to regret ever coming here, and he says Arthur says Renfield had better not be there when he comes back. Arthur leaves the building, and Mina grabs him and tells him they can't be seen together and that he's in danger. We cut to Mina and Arthur sitting in the library. Arthur says they need to get the authorities there now. Mina says there is no time. She tells him that the town is ruled by Constantine and that he isn't what he appears to be. She tells Arthur that Constantine is Dracula, the Lord of the Undead. Arthur doesn't really seem to believe her, though. I mean, if somebody told you that this person was Dracula, would you actually believe him? And we cut to Dracula with Renfield in a chokehold again. He tells Dracula that the outsider must be dealt with. Dracula says after he deals with Renfield says Arthur was too strong and he tried to fight back, but Dracula tells Renfield that he told Arthur too much and he broke their pact. Dracula looks at the woman in the car from earlier and says, she's hungry. Maybe she has a taste for weaselly little grubs like Renfield. Dracula throws him to the woman and she kills Renfield. Rest in peace, Renfield. You will be missed. We cut outside where it is dark now, and Sharkula is swimming towards the shore. More footage of the fire dancer, and we get Dracula flying through the air as a bat. Mina tells Arthur that Dracula is real, and that Renfield has probably already told Dracula about him, and that he needs to leave right now. Arthur tells her to come with him, and Mina says she can't, that Dracula has too deep of a hold on her, and would follow her wherever she goes. Dracula appears and just basically goes, yeah, she's right. Arthur goes to get up, and Dracula tells him to sit because he has no reason to kill him unless he gives him just cause. Dracula tells Mina how pretty she's looking tonight, and Mina says he knows everything. Dracula says he knows some things, but not everything, because he's centuries old, and he really can't know everything. Dracula tells Arthur that he needs his help, and Arthur tells him to get Renfield to do his dirty work for him. Dracula's like, he's a little incapacitated right now. Arthur asks if he means dead, then he isn't going to miss him. Dracula wants Mina and Arthur to help him free the shark, free himself of Sharkula. Arthur asks how he is at the service of the shark, how he is at the service of the shark when he's fucking Dracula, Dracula tells them everyone serves someone. Dracula goes into his backstory with the shark. We cut to the angry mob of 5 from earlier in the movie. He tells them how the mob chased him down, and we basically get the same scene of earlier of him falling into the water, of him getting stabbed and falling into the water. Dracula says a large shark swam towards him with bloodlust. Dracula tells them that he used his power of mind control to communicate with the shark, and he transferred the curse of the shark to him. Basically, he transferred the curse to the shark, and if he served the shark, he would protect him. We cut back to Arthur asking why he wants to be free of the shark. Dracula says there's so much more to rule, and as long as the shark lives, he cannot leave this wretched town. Arthur says it sounds like a load of crap, and Mina tells him not to piss off Dracula. Which should be common sense. Don't piss off Dracula. Arthur asks what the plan is, and Dracula doesn't seem to know. We cut outside to the demons, and one says that basically mentions that the beast is getting hungrier, and the other one says, well, Dracula should be on his way with his he should be on the way with the sacrifice. Dracula, basically, then we cut back to Dracula, Mina, and Arthur, and he basically says the only way to defeat the shark is to take it by surprise. Arthur asks how he plans to do that, and Dracula says they will go through the sacrifice and lure it to the beach. When it's close to the altar, Arthur can drive a stake through it. Mina asks, "What about his goons?" And Dracula says, "I can hypnotize them and send them fleeing. They're fine. Don't worry about them." Arthur asks if it will look weird with him just standing there at the ritual. Dracula says he will be there to hold his hands, or will be there with his hands bound loosely, of course. Arthur then asks who the sacrifice will be, and Dracula says Mina, of course. She agrees if it means leaving this town. Dracula tells Arthur to make sure he stabs it behind its eye, or else he will be its sacrifice. We cut to the altar where Mina is chained up and tells Dracula he promised as she begs. Basically, I don't think she knew she was going to be chained up there. And Dracula does his ritual to call Sharkula to the beach. Sharkula sticks its head out of the water and makes its way to Mina. It's like basically it's almost like the head of the shark is like by the camera and it's slowly walking. Uh, Arthur grabs it looks like a really bad spear in all honesty, but he grabs it and just starts stabbing Sharkula in the eye. Um, Killing Sharkula, but Dracula starts to talk shit to the shark, who then turns around and bites his hand before Arthur sets it on fire. Arthur says they did their part and they go their way. Dracula goes, and it's time for them to go their way, and Dracula goes his. Dracula basically goes, "Well, Mina, don't you want to spend eternity with me and marry me?" Mina says they had a deal, and Dracula says, "Well, I lied. You know, he's Dracula. What are you going to do about it?" Arthur screams, "Sharkula!" and they run. I guess the reason he yelled Sharkula. Dracula runs into his minions, and they tell him that they don't listen to him anymore, that he is the sea beast and no longer their master. So now we start to learn apparently Dracula is turning into Sharkula. Because of the bite on his hand. Dracula basically kills them as Arthur and Mina make their way, and they go to hide in the basement of the. They make their way back to the inn that Dracula owns, and run into the basement where there's no escape. Um, and then Mina realizes, oh, there's Dracula's casket or coffin. Maybe we should not be here. Arthur says, well, hell, let's destroy it. And Mina reminds him, well, he's Dracula, he probably got a bunch of places. He probably got a bunch more coffins elsewhere. They hear the woman from earlier, and she says Dracula did everything. Arthur's, well, you're covered in blood, and I'm going to assume that. And basically, Arthur assumes that it's Renfield's blood. Uh, the woman screams at him. Arthur takes the stake and basically stakes the woman. And as she's being staked, though, she calls out to Dracula. Mina says, we need to get the fuck out of here right now because, Dracula could be there any minute. Arthur doesn't believe her. And Mina tries to explain, well, she's calling to him, and he's fucking Dracula. He can get here within seconds. Arthur's like, whatever, let's leave. Dracula hears the call of his victim and heads back. We then cut to Arthur and Mina they find the car from earlier, from the couple from earlier, and they're trying to hotwire because he doesn't have the keys. It's not starting. There's a back and forth, and Mina basically convinces Arthur to leave the car and go hide. Well, their hiding place, for whatever reason, they decide their hiding place is going to be the room that Arthur and John were sharing. Dracula says he doesn't need the coffin anymore and decides to feast on the woman from earlier. So he drinks her blood. We get more footage of the fire dancer on the beach, and then we cut to Arthur and Mina hiding in the room. Mina says there is nowhere they can escape from him. They talk about how Dracula destroyed the town like a cancer. Mina goes into her backstory a little bit. She was orphaned at the age of 2, and an elderly couple took her in, and that Mina says ever since Dracula took over, how the townspeople have been disappearing slowly, one by one, slowly but surely. Arthur asks if Dracula ever, tried to basically have sex with her. Mina tells him, basically she said no, and that Dracula could never disobey her if she does, and if she didn't want to marry him. Basically, I don't know what I was thinking when I wrote that, but basically, it almost seems like Dracula has to obey Mina because he's in love with her, um, and that her love controls Dracula. Arthur asks if she thought maybe more she has more control over him than he does her, and Arthur says basically maybe this doesn't mean maybe it's because she doesn't love him. That Dracula loves her and she doesn't love him, and that is what helps Mina to be able to control Dracula a little bit. Um, and now they decide to go to the basement again. Uh, of course, they meet up with Dracula, and says Mina is coming with them whether she wants to or not, and that Arthur will die. Dracula and Arthur start fighting. Um, well, Dracula says maybe you need more persuasion to wed him. Um, and Arthur and Dracula start fighting. He goes to kill Arthur, but Mina tells him, "Stop it, stop it." Basically, orders him to obey her, and Dracula starts complaining that his love for her controls him, and it gives her control over him. Mina says she is supposed to be his soulmate, and Arthur pops up with the cross, one of the crosses Mina made, puts it to his forehead from early, puts it to his forehead, and that apparently fucking kills Dracula. Not a stake, not holy water, not garlic, a cross to the forehead. With a stick, not even silver. We cut out to some stock footage of the beach and the fire dancer from basically the fair dancer again, and she's dancing and walking away again. Beautiful woman. Uh, and then we see glowing eyes in the water. Roll credits. That is Sharkula. Whew, that was a chore to get through. I'm not gonna lie. Um, so as we usually do, let's go through the trivia. Of course, it is written and directed by Mark Polonia, who has brought he's actually has an extensive career. Been making movies since like 1985. I'm on his IMDb now. First movie that he directed was Church of the Damned. We have Splatter Farm, How to Slay a Vampire. I'm not going to read all of these, of course. Blood Red Planet, Hellgate, Night Thirst, Holla If I Kill You. That's a sequel to another movie called Holla. Peter Rottentail. I think I remember, there it is. Yep, Splatter Beach. That's what I've definitely seen before. Chainsaw Killer, Camp Blood, First Slaughter, uh, Bigfoot versus Zombies, Sharkenstein, Amityville Exorcism. He's made a couple of Amityville movies. Basically, it's a lot of shark movies and things like that. Sister Krampus, um, Cocaine Werewolf, which I'm gonna have to watch that when that comes out, because that looks freaking awesome. An idea. I love Cocaine Bear, and Cocaine Werewolf just sounds hilarious. Of course, Kyle Rappaport stars in the movie as Renfield. He's been in a lot of stuff, starting with Splatterhouse in 2009. We talked about the one we were talking about in the chat. We were talking about one of the other ones he was in. I'm sorry, that was when he produced. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong list. Yeah, 2009. He's Macabre Medicine, but the Botanist, Return to Nukem High, Volume 1. I do like that movie. And Volume 2, It Kills, Grindsploitation 4, Driving Grindhouse, Faces of the Dead, Shakespeare, Shitstorm from Troma. I am a big fan of Troma films. So I will definitely be watching that one when it comes out. I've been waiting for Shakespeare Shitstorm and all that. I guess it's already out. I haven't been able to find it anywhere yet. I gotta look next time I go to the convention. Jaws of the Drones. I think we were talking about that camp. What is it called again? Camp Murder. Did great work in that one. Let's go backward. Back to Sharkula. We got James Kelly as John. Quite a bit. He's got a few credits to him. He's relatively new from the looks of it. And of course, Jamie Morgan as Mina. Again, this is the second movie I've seen her in, maybe even more that I've not paid attention. That I can probably bring up. I probably noticed her. She's had quite a career actually in a bunch of movies. First starting out in 2012 and moving up Half Dead, Hellbound, Transformation, Bloody Island, um, It Kills as well, The People's Champ, um, Ghost of Camp Blood, Frozen Sasquatch, Ride of the Werewolf, Return to Splatter Farm, Children of Camp Blood, and she's got a lot of movies out. So that's a lot. I mean, these guys make a lot of movies. Then keep an eye out for them. Cocaine Shark. I don't know if they were in Cocaine Shark. This popped up here. Trying to get down here to the trivia if there's any trivia for it, and I do not see any. It's a short movie. I'll give you that guy. I'll give you guys that. It is a short movie. 1 hour and 11 minutes. Released in Japan on September 7th, 2022. Here's a trivia. Let's see. Read some of the trivia from IMDb. Where'd it go? Maybe only one piece of trivia. Calling the town Arkham is a nod to Batman and all things Gotham, since the name of the asylum where all the villains are kept, and since that's the name of the asylum where all the villains are kept until they're inevitably escaped. So I guess good reason to call it Arkham. But let's get on to the review. It was okay. I mean, it wasn't like I said. If you go into the movie thinking you're gonna get Jaws or you're gonna get some kind of Hollywood blockbuster, you're not. Um, it's what I would call a convention movie. It's one I would expect to buy from a convention. The budget is low. It's obvious the budget's low. But it doesn't really take from the movie. I love low budget movies though, and they can be good, they can be bad. It all really depends on the writing. And this was a unique story, in all honesty, which is what draws me in. The acting was okay. It wasn't the greatest acting, needless to say. I did like Kyle here as Renfield. He did a good job. I've also seen him in other, like I've said before, during the chat during the movie. I've seen him in other movies. He's not bad. He's pretty good actually. He's pretty entertaining. He always, and no offense, Kyle. I know if you're still in the chat, if you're still here, he does seem to play a douchebag in a lot of movies that I've seen, and he does it very well. Needless to say, Renfield was kind of a douche. Glad he got punched. Glad he got killed. But that's more than like what they're going for. But at the end of the day, it's worth a watch. It's worth a watch. I'm not gonna shit on the movie or anything because of the low budget. There's a lot of stuff that should have been explained, like the vampire lady they kept showing. I wish they would have explained that. I wish they would have explained the purple dragon, which again, I'm just gonna wildly assume that the purple dragon is Sharkula. It's supposed to be Sharkula, and that's just like some kind of graphic from the CGI program they were using or something like that. I don't know. It's still it was still confusing. The whole Dracula book thing kind of annoyed me, and of course, pretending that it's nighttime when it's daytime, that annoyed. That's such an easy fix. But other than that, I will give this movie, let's do 3.5, 3.5 shark heads, or bat shark. We'll do a 3.5 back sharks. It's worth a watch. Is it perfect? No. It's low budget greatness, or not really greatness, but good. It's low budget fun to watch. And you can, as always, watch it yourself, form your own decision on it. But guys, that's going to bring us to the end of the show this week. Thank you for joining. You can always find me at the Bloody Binge Movie Podcast on Twitter, on Facebook groups, and on YouTube. You can also find me on Twitch, streaming GTA 5, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and now the Puppet Master game, at Sewer Dwellers 78 on Twitch. You can also, of course, find me on the Owl Light Network, which brings us the Bloody Binge Movie Podcast every week. I am very proud to be part of that group. You can also find me, of course, on Matt and Monsters, the bi-weekly wrestling podcast on the Owlite Network. Right now, I think we are in a little bit of a hiatus, either right before or just after SummerSlam. I'm not sure when we're going to be back to you, but we will be back. We're just on a little bit of a hiatus while some things are taken care of. But you can always still find me here on the Bloody Binge Movie Podcast every Friday at 4 p.m. Just to give you guys a heads up, next week the Bloody Binge will not be coming to you, but we will be coming to you with Shivers. For those who are still new to the podcast, Shivers is our paranormal episode. We've done this is going to be our third paranormal version or third episode of the Shivers that we've done. I've done Colonial Williamsburg, Haunted Colonial Williamsburg, and Haunted Gettysburg in the past. This episode, we are actually going to start tackling cryptids as we explore the cryptids of Ohio. Um, we are going to end. I'm going to end up doing uh, every state's cryptids. We're starting with Ohio only because that is where I live. And it's not my, I guess you can call it my home state because I've lived there for about 11 years now. I'm originally from Virginia, but Ohio is where I live now, so it is my home state. And then from there, we probably will just go alphabetical order, unless something like basically pops out at me when it comes to the other ones. But yes, next week, prepare for an episode of Shivers, prepare for the Ohio cryptids. But guys, it's been fun this week. Thank you for joining me. Thank you. It was an honor to have Kyle Rappaport in the chat with us this week. Very, very, very big, nice surprise to find somebody from the movie we were covering in the chat. Um, but guys, we will see you next week. Be good to each other. And of course, keep watching horror movies.